Mary Kiffmeyer on
Yes.
the line. Mark Ritchie, Secretary of State, has decided unilaterally to start a new online voter registration tool. Some Republican leaders have an issue with that, including State Senator and former Secretary of State Mary Kiffmeyer. Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hey there, Jack. Doing great.
Can you explain to us what the usurper, Mark Ritchie, while he's tarnishing your office, what his plans are for this new online voter registration tool?
You know, this is really amazing. Supposedly, even Governor Dayton didn't know about it. A bunch of other people didn't know about it.
Shocked that Mark Dayton wasn't aware.
I hadn't thought of that. Good point. Anyway, but yeah, just went out and basically secretively developed this tool for people to register to vote online. Now, remember, this is online, not in person.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if there's a real person outside that. We don't know anything. It's not been vetted through the legislative process. This is even more so than partisan. It's also dictatorial.
Now, Mary,
going out there and doing stuff.
Certainly there are problems, but let's look at how well the state has handled the MNsure website. Clearly, these people know how to put together an online tool that is foolproof, flawless.
Right, I know. MNsure, the driver's license things. I mean, yes, numerous breaches of security, faux pas, and problems. So you've got that alone. And so, yeah, my confidence in this whole thing is not good at all. I mean, you have to remember, I talked to yesterday at a meeting that Secretary Ritchie was chairing, and we were going through the great details of electronic rosters where you sign in, you're in person and you do that, about the security and the technology and lots of questions. None of that was done with this online voter registration thing, none of it. And by the way, Republicans, Democrats, Greens, and Independents, we all register people to vote. We're all enthusiastic. Minnesota's a great state in regards to that. So this is not about encouraging people. It's about the security of your personal and private data that goes in online, and the legislature and nobody has an opportunity to verify, to take a look at it, to ask the proper questions that are the Minnesotans protected, their private secure data protected when they go through this. iPads going door to door, how easy it is to do a jump drive and do a bypass collection of data.
Absolutely.
I mean, it really is and I'm just amazed at the boldness and the lack of concern even for people's privacy and their data that they just do that, and they just toss it off like, oh, it doesn't matter.
Senator Kiffmeyer, you were once Secretary of State. Were you aware in your time in office that you had the unilateral power to do things like this without authority from the legislature? Interesting,
isn't that?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, this law, it's UETA law, Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, and the 325L is the chapter for those who may be interested in that. He was using that because it was passed while I was in office. Yes, and I did not use it in that way. It's really important to understand that this law, when it was passed, that he's claiming gives him the right to do this, also says that if there is another law that prescribes a specific way to transact business, you must do that.
Oh.
And in this case, so that very law he is using as cover for his unilateral action is the very same law that also says within it that if a law other than this chapter requires a record to be sent, communicated, or transacted by a specific method, then there is that exception.
So this law
the record then must be sent specified in the other law.
So he's claiming authority through this law, but in that law it says if somewhere else in law it is prescribed a way to do X, that's the way you've got to do it.
That's right. That's
Okay.
in that same law. Like, you might want to read it before you do this.
So
maybe?
what's I happen to think that Mark Ritchie is a super partisan Secretary of State. What's his motivation for this? Or is he just excited to get more people registered to vote?
This is one of those things that, it's always really hard to say motivations. Why did somebody do that? It's such a conjecture that I try not to do that. I just go on the basis of your actions.
You're such a grown-up, Mary.
What's that?
You're such a grown-up. So responsible.
Well,
so measured.
Integrity.
as the oldest of 14
It counts.
kids, I learned young.
Sure.
Yeah, I know. And so I don't know for sure why, but it's a foolish thing to do. But there must be some purpose again, mentioning the iPads, going door to door, again, being able to scoop data away while you're at it.
So, Mayor,
so that you contact them later. I don't know what some of those purposes or reasons might be, but I don't find a justification, no matter what, for any chief election official to use their office.
So does the legislature have any recourse now that Secretary Ritchie has made this decision?
Or is this another situation where the legislature takes this before the state Supreme Court and says, hey, he's overgoing his boundaries again?
Well, what's interesting here is his own political party controls the House, the Senate, and the governorship.
Good point.
My gosh, you could have just put this through in a piece of legislation and had a genuine debate through the legislature, but instead he didn't and chose to do it this way. So I think that he has that, that unique situation that there is right now. So even that, when you have your own political party, you can basically do whatever you want to do. So why do you have to do it this way?
So is this an executive office creating de facto law simply because no one's going to challenge it?
Who's being challenged right now is that since we don't have the control of the House and the Senate, but our caucus and our senators who share this concern, such as Senator Newman, Senator Limmer, and others as well, Representative Pepin and so on, have asked the legislative auditor to review this matter. House Research has done a background paper on it as well. So we're taking action as legislators, as we have the duty and responsibility and the right to do so in reviewing that, taking it. So we may do that. But again, even still in the meeting yesterday when I asked questions directly to Secretary Ritchie, he wouldn't answer, and was insulting to me in regards to even the fact that I would ask such a question, even though the subject on the agenda at that time was the state voter registration system.
Well, how dare you?
How dare you?
In their presentation, they didn't even happen to mention this online voter registration system.
Hoping you wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah. All right, Senator Kiffmeyer, be sure to keep us up to date on where this goes. Frankly, I'm not comfortable with people unilaterally making law.
Yeah.
Call me crazy.
I can imagine if
I like
Mary
the democratic
Kiffmeyer,
process.
If Mary Kiffmeyer had done such a thing, can you imagine the outrage?
Oh, the uproar. Yep, absolutely.
You would have heard the end of it.
Yes, and so now here we go. But the big thing is protecting Minnesotans and their private information with all the breaches we've had in this administration offices. It's a genuine concern, and so we'll work hard to be sure, and it also calls into question anybody who does register to vote through that means what's their status, should this go forward, and this is just not the way to do business, and certainly not elections.
All right, thank you very much, Senator Mary Kiffmeyer.